Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar titled The Need for a Modern Content Services Platform is Now, presented by Newgen Software, a leading provider of content services, digital process automation, and customer communication management platform with a multitude of implementations across the globe. I am Gunjan Kalita, and I shall be your host and the moderator for this webinar. Today, we have Anurag Shah, Newgen's AVP and Head of Digital Products, as our speaker. At the end of the presentation, we'll be having a Q&A session. We request you to type your questions in the question window of your GoToWebinar anytime throughout the presentation. I shall take them up at the end of the session with our expert. With that, I hand it over to you, Anurag.
Thank you, Gunjan. I hope you're able to hear me fine.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Hello, everyone. I hope you all had a happy and healthy start to the new year. Today, we are discussing, like Gunjan said, the modern content management services platform and why do we need it now more than ever. So let's see. When you look at the documents in your organization, do you feel that these documents are really slowing your operations and your activities really down? It is slowing down. I mean, these are some of the industry numbers that they say that about 95% of the documentation in business, those are still paper-based. I mean, we have seen the COVID, and I'm going to talk about it and what we did in the last 9 months or so, but that's the reality. I mean, that's the data, which is staggering. And the issues which relates to the document, it accounts for your productivity loss up to the extent of 21% each day. And almost 86% of your employees, they go through difficulty in searching what they need for their day-to-day activities, their operations, their customer services, and all of those things. So these are staggering numbers. I mean, nearly all the organizations across the industry, they rely heavily on the document-centric processes, be it banking, insurance, shared services, internal operations like human resources, administration, and those kind of things. I mean, you talk about loan application, account opening, invoice processing, employee onboarding, correspondence movement, contracts renewal, and those all kind of things. So I quickly wanted to take you through one of the example of what a document-centric processes really look like. And I just pick one loan application. Considering and thinking that in the last 9 months with all the stimulus and the programs by the Fed for the COVID relief, we all must be aware of the loans that the small businesses and everyone is getting through the Fed programs. So I thought that we will be able to relate the loan process using document-centric approach to kind of communicate the message of this webinar. So now if you look at the loan application, really you start gathering the relevant documents from the borrowers, the loan application, the identity ID cards, the ID verifications, the income proof, if it is small business, maybe the payrolls, the profit loss statement, expenses, and balance sheet, and those kind of things. And then you do the ID authentication, the ID verification that the borrower is the borrower, is the one what he or she claims, who they are. So you go through the verification and validity of the documents which are provided for their IDs. And then you have your internal organizational process, the workflows, the norms, the guidelines through which you would take all of these documents and content, take the data out of those, you do your underwriting, you would write your internal memos, You would circulate those memos to various stakeholders, collect feedbacks, recommendations, redo the underwriting. If there are any counter offers, you send them back to the customer. So there comes the customer communication. I mean, right from the first step until the last step, there are multiple interactions which you do with the customer. Sometimes you would send email, sometimes you would print a document and mail it, or push it on the portal. There could be different ways you would do that, but there are several communications which again generate a lot of documents. You would also want certain disclosures for the customer to acknowledge, to sign, send that acknowledgement back. So not only you are generating those documents, you are also getting those back from the borrowers and the customers. And then you go into the closing and funding. If the loan is approved, you draw the closing documents. There are several documents which you draw, and you send those to the borrowers for signing, and you get again those documents back. So there are versions. You created certain documents, you sent those to the borrower. If there are any edits, you make those edits, you again send another version, and then you get the final version back, the signed versions. And you archive all of those. You file and you archive for your future references when you have to do your loan servicing and all of those things. You also implement the rotation cycles on the document based on the statutory guidelines and compliance and those kind of things. So record management comes into the play. So if we look at this overall process, I mean, this approach, it was all working fine. And then come March 2020, COVID-19, it hits, and it hits bad. And what it does, it disrupts all your processes. Each one of these steps gets disrupted because you were relying so heavily on document, you were relying so heavily on people interacting with each other, employees, customers, third parties, your partners, all of those things, either manually or partially automated way. So all of those entire mechanism got disrupted. So let's look at how these processes, which are really document intensive and paper intensive, how these challenge, how these impact and hurt your business. So of course, there are these 5 elements that I have listed here, and we talked about it: difficulty in accessing the information. You, as a knowledge worker, you want to really get to the document and the content, and you shouldn't be worried about whether you received it in an email or it came through a mail, or this content was generated by your internal application. Where is that? All of those, you should be seamlessly going into the repository and should be able to access those kind of information, whatever you want for your day-to-day activities. So you are getting, you see there how difficult it becomes when you are relying on physical papers or even scanned papers scattered across your organization. It induces delays in your decision making, whether you have to respond to a customer, or you have to make a recommendation internally for one of the process, or send an opinion, or somebody has referred to you. How quickly you are able to do, or how delayed you are in those kind of things. And what it does is it increases the response time to your customer. So there comes the dissatisfaction for the end customers. And of course, how you collaborate internally with your peers, your colleagues, your department, inter and intra-department knowledge workers. How do you collaborate? What is the problem there? And ultimately, all of these 4 things lead into a low visibility onto what you are really doing end to end. I mean, we talked about the loan application process, right? Where is the loan? Who is working on it? Where are the exceptions? Where is the bottleneck? Why the customer is still asking what has gone what is happening with his or her loan. Where is that visibility? So you face that kind of a problem when it all are contained into a piece of paper lying into a file in some desk or somewhere. So what do we really need? What we need is digitalization. And all of these four elements that I have listed here, we have lived through this in last 9 months. We have seen our employees started working remotely from their home office, remote office. Uh, Not only they don't have the access of physical documents, they don't really want to touch those physical documents. Uh, as much as possible, we try to avoid those kind of things to kind of get the documents exchanged in person through multiple people. Those things were avoided. And same goes with the customers. The customers didn't want to come to your offices, to if you're a bank, to your branch. They wanted all of these things, all of these services from their home, from their remote, wherever they are. They didn't want to do that in-person interaction, right? And what really the businesses had to do, they had to enable all of these things online. They had to make information accessible. They had to make all of those information secure and everything. So these are the things which became kind of de facto living and working standard in last 9 months. So what we see here, I wanted to talk about the 5 ways. The 5 ways digitalization can help you manage your documents and ensure seamless operations during and after COVID-19. So let's talk about these 5 ways one by one. So number one, enabling multi-channel content management. What do we really mean by that? So the customers may engage via multiple channels, social. They can call your contact center. They can come to your website portal. They can send an email. And in some instances, they might also walk into your offices and branch. I mean, fast forward 6 months from now, COVID is gone, everybody gets vaccine, and your offices are operational, everybody is open. So the customers can even walk in, right? And when they engage through all of these multiple channels, they share information. And those information again could be in various formats. They could send a physical mail, email, it could be audio, it could be video, it could be online portal. So there could be various formats and ways in which you would receive those information. So all of these collectively will become your content. So it's important for you to map the customer journey across their life cycle and engage in their preferred channel. So that's what we mean by the enabling multi-channel content management is number one. Let's look at number two. Ensuring anytime and anywhere content access. So with employees working remotely, they require secure, but at the same time, easy access to the content to be able to provide uninterrupted services to end customers or to internal stakeholders, whosoever they are servicing to. So things like federated repository, uh, hosted on cloud or hybrid with on-prem, access with rights-based access. So these are things what your teams need to function and collaborate effectively. Number third, allowing intelligent processing. What do we really mean by intelligent processing when we talk about content? So there are a number of document types and formats you use and process across the departments, and those could be, for example, orders, enrollment and claim forms, legal documents, mailroom documents, contracts, correspondences, and so on and so forth. The list goes on and on. So what we mean by intelligent processing is an artificial intelligence and machine learning enabled uh, auto document classification, auto content classification. So you employ these technologies to classify which content, which document, which audio, which video, what are those, what it really means. So you instead of a person or a human body looking at that and manually doing it, how can you employ these kind of technologies and do those auto classification and then do those auto indexing, and then making those available for searching in future. So these will ultimately become key to infuse the intelligence in the content which you serve to your employees. And such classifications can be based on either the structural features like layout based, or it could be textual features like content based. You do certain extraction from the document and you find out what this document is, or you look at the document, if it is a table or if it is some other kind, what this could be, or it could be a combination of both for better result. And you combine such intelligent content output in your organizational workflows, the processes, for seamless downstream and upstream processing. So that's what we mean when we say that allowing intelligent process on these contents. Monitoring continuous improvement, number 4, right? Tracking the actions performed on the content becomes very, very important. And it is only possible by leveraging reporting and analytics component, which will generate the required information in the necessary format for your specific user sets, giving the opportunity to look at your content, look at your process, look at your interactions, look at your collaboration, and see where you're facing bottlenecks or where you have the uh, option and things to improve, where you can improve things, those kind of things. Last, number 5th, how do you do all of these things, 1, 2, 3, and 4, by being compliant to the regulations, being compliant to the statutory guidelines, and be able to enforce those rules. How do you do that? So while making information accessible is the prime objective, it cannot it cannot be at the cost of the compliance failure. We must understand that. I mean, the content, the privacy, we talk about privacy, we talk about content, we talk about security all the time. So you must create internal and external regulatory programs, standards, and policies to ensure information security and compliance with the applicable guidelines, the laws of the lands. So these are the 5 ways we think and we see that if done will help you manage your documents and ensure the seamless operations. And these would be applicable today while you are living through the COVID, and in future after your COVID, after the COVID. So let's see how the digitalization is made easy with Newgen ECM, Newgen Enterprise Content Management, OmniDocs, delivering the contextual content services. So managing the content lifecycle with the flexibility to access and deliver the content across the channels we talked about. I mean, customers engagement channels, customers engagement devices, phone, tablet, PC, laptop, call. It could anything. It could be anything. So let's see how we really make all of these things easy. So you establish a digital workplace. You provide a unified interface, and you enable those multi-channel content capturing, be it an incoming email, be it a feed on a social network, or a document uploaded on your portal online, or a call, audio input for through your contact center, any channel. All of how do you capture all of these content we talked about and manage those contents across different repositories? Maybe your emails are in Exchange your documents coming through the portal are, let's say, on a file server, or documents getting scanned, or those kind of things going into one of the repository. How do you manage all these different repositories, capture all of this content from different channels, and how do you establish this mechanism, right? This is where Newgen Omnidocs, and I'm going to talk about it in my next slide in a little bit detail, but that's what is one of the primary component of the contextual content services delivered by Newgen Omnidocs. And which is the next item, leveraging the contextual content. We talked about infusing intelligence into the content, right? The auto document and content classification, auto indexing. What it really does is, in the context of the work that you are doing, in the context of the process that you are doing, you should be able to provide those content to the user, what the user is looking for. For example, an underwriter, right? In the example that we talked about, the loan processing, if an underwriter is doing a evaluation or doing a credit check and those kind of things for the borrower's application, and wants to see the balance sheet of or the income proof of, let's say, 2018, 2019, it should be available on a click or seamlessly for the underwriter. The underwriter should not be required to go through multiple emails or files to get that. So that's what we mean by bringing that content within the context of the work that the knowledge worker is doing. We talked about artificial intelligence for accurate content extraction, the auto classification, the auto indexing, structured document classification, and the sentiment analysis, the last part of that point, the third point. What we really mean is by looking at your social network, and how do you sense what is coming from the social network, the feeds which are coming, Facebook, Twitter, and all of those social network, your customers and your prospects, when they're writing something about you, how do you analyze the sentiment of what is written there? Are those in positive connotation? Are those in negative connotation? Is the customer happy? Is the customer worried? Is the customer frustrated, unhappy? How do you analyze those sentiment and then use that content again intelligently to provide to your knowledge worker to take care of the situation, whatever it is, whether it's a simple response back to the customer, or there is a bottleneck with the customer's process, the customer's instrument, and it needs resolution internally to be able to satisfy the customer. Whatever is your internal organizational process and requirement to do that, if you are able to analyze the sentiment, you'll be able to do those work. And we talked about adhering to the security, the regulatory requirements, and mitigating all of those risks while you are doing all of these, mitigating those risks. And one of the example which you see on the screen, bottom half, so Newgen's Omnidocs enterprise content management and content services platform is deployed for one of a leading insurance company, where this platform is managing over 15 billion documents accessed by about 25,000 enterprise users, and there are about 390 million customers whose policies and customer records, those are managed and archived into the system. I mean, there are hardly a few countries in the world who have got population more than that. So that's the scale at which this content services platform has been deployed. So why really do we need ECM which should be built on a digital automation platform? Let's take the discussion to the next level. I mean, we talked about the content management, we talked about the content services, but why should this entire platform be on a digital automation platform? So you want to manage your end-to-end enterprise content, from the digitization to the storage, archival, and orchestration to storage and orchestration and archival. And you want to ensure that you comply with the various regulations, the standards, through this record management system, the which will allow you to manage the life cycle of the document, the retention period, the legal holds, and so on and so forth. What document is required till what time and everything. We talked about anytime and anywhere access of the content while maintaining the security and the integrity of the content. We talked about discovering and searching and providing the contextual information from millions and billions of documents and in seconds. I mean, the content should be readily available within the context. And we talked about one of the example where there are 15 billion documents which are managed, which are managed by this application. Building a fit for purpose ECM. So it is not something like one size fits for all. The platform should be able to adapt to your organization, to the way you are structured, to the way you have created your processes within your departments. It should be fit for purpose kind of thing. So it should be tailored and should meet how you do those works and what are those steps to do those. And leveraging low code, leveraging cloud, having agility, enabling remote operations. So all of these things become important. So these are the key tenets why we say ECM built on a digital automation platform is the key to achieve what you want to achieve. So here is another representation of what this digital automation platform may look like. So in the center, in the orange circle, you see this platform has three components: the content that we just talked about, processes, your organizational workflows and those kind of things, and the communication. We talked about how you communicate with the customer. So those three are the pillars which constitute the platform. And then if you look at the technologies just in the inside black half circle, whether it is artificial intelligence and machine learning, we talked about auto classification, auto indexing, we talked about analytics, RPA, robotic process automation, so cloud, on-prem, all of those technologies should be helping you on this digital platform across the industries: banking, insurance, shared services, public sector, government, manufacturing, you name any of those verticals. And you are actually connecting your enterprise to transform this transform the experience across the channels, which is on the outer circle that you see: social, portal, mobile, email. We talked about all of those. And you really look at the product, it is recognized by the likes of the Gartners and Forrester. It is there in the Magic Quadrant. It is there in the Wave report. So that speaks volumes about the platform, its capabilities, its scale, its features, its functionality. So you know that you are looking at getting a new age and future-proof kind of platform. So if we have to really talk about quickly, how do we differentiate Newgen from what you see available in the contemporaries in the market? We talked about unification, one platform to give you the content, to give you the processes, to allow you to communicate with your customers, with your internal stakeholders. So that becomes one of the key, the unification and unified platform. We talked about intelligent content services, intelligent processing, technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence, extraction. We talked about digital sensing, the sentiment analysis and those kind of things. So all of those are available as add-on on the platform for you to employ for specific use cases. And that brings us to the third point, which is the use cases. We talked about one use case, loan as a banking, but whether it is insurance, whether it is shared service center, invoice processing, or it's employee onboarding, or it's oil and gas or manufacturing process or a shop floor process or order fulfillment, any of such use cases, you think about it, and the platform enables you to deploy those automation across the use cases. We talked about entry points. uh, I mean, you could choose to deploy the platform for a specific use case, or you could choose to deploy it enterprise wide, covering multiple departments. So how you include the platform in your organization could be strategic or it could be tactical. So these are the differentiators. And looking at the time, I'll quickly run through uh, the, I think this is my last slide. Why really you would partner with us, with Newgen? So there are three areas what I wanted to highlight here. You get a dedicated solution consulting. We help you develop proof of concepts before you really go on live. We share your opportunities, and we co-own your success. We enter into a value-driven partnership. We invest with you when it is needed for your success. And of course, all of this thing with a right offer, flexibility in the price, in the execution model, uh, whether it is a tactical low cost entry or enterprise wide big bang implementation. We do all of those. Okay, I think I'm just about a minute, a couple of minutes over. Let us see if we have got any questions.
Thank you, Anurag. This was truly insightful, and a modern content services platform looks like the way to go for enterprises to accomplish their digital transformation goals. So, we do have a couple of questions that we'll take up quickly. Uh, the first question is AI ML important in an ECM system?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because typically people associate such technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, more for the workflow pieces, more for the processes, automation, and those kind of things. But actually, if you look at your content, and if we broaden our horizon of what we think is content beyond the documents and the scanned documents and the physical documents, when we include those audios, those visuals, those videos, those pictures, those contact center conversations, when we include all of those into our content, and then we think how we classify these content in what they are, in what context those content were gathered or generated or created, and then to be able to serve those to our internal employees as well as our customers when those are needed. That's when these technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning, comes into play. I mean, with the amount of content which are going to be managed, we are already past those days where we used to size the content in gigabytes. Now are the times for terabytes. I mean, everybody's talking about terabytes of content to manage. So unless we deploy these kind of technologies, it will become humanly impossible to do those manual classification and indexing, and to be able to use the content. The rate at which the content is being generated and gathered is way more than the rate at which you could manually do those classifications. So yes, AI ML becomes key in any enterprise content management.
Thank you, Anurag. And in respect of the time that we have left, I'll just take up the final question. And this is that I have files, emails, physical documents strewn all across the organization. Is it possible to consolidate them all with an ECM system?
That's another very, very good question, and that's a practical one. So there are two approaches to it. We all have lived through this. So the content which we have managed for last decades and decades would obviously be scattered and splattered across various places in your organization. You would have your emails, like you said, you would have your those shared drives, you may have your older repositories, you may have acquired more repositories. So either you could take a big bang approach of migrating everything, but nowadays more and more the customers are looking at how we can leverage and reuse what we have, but with the digital and a new age and a modern content services. So what we really are saying is that a platform which could give you a federated capability to go and crawl into these places. If it is exchange, go and look into the exchange. If these are your shared drives or if these are your older repositories, uh, it does not matter whether those are billions of documents or millions of documents. If the platform is able to crawl into those, uh, get what is there, and then employ those technologies and do those classifications, and then map those back with the organizational security, access, compliance, statutory guidelines, I think that's the way to approach it. But yes, I mean the big bang migration is another option which is always on the cards. So there are these two approaches which each organization can take based on their internal structures.
Thank you, Anurag. Now we've reached the end of the webinar. We really appreciate your time and valuable insights. Newgen will send across a copy of this recording to all the registrants. Those who were not able to share their questions today, please feel free to send them over via email. Thank you again and have a great rest of the day ahead.